Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to the House of Hughes, another chamber here in the Houselights podcast as we look at the works of John Hughes of the 1980s. And this week, we are looking at the final film of John Hughes of the 1980s, Uncle Buck. So the Uncle Buck stops here with me, John Mills, one of your hosts, and I am joined by my esteemed colleagues, one of whom has to rush out right now and leave the kids at home and is struggling to find somebody to stay there and watch the kids. Darren Moser, Dr. Sci-Fi, this is an unexpected emergency. I'm so sorry that you have to rush off, but I'm pretty sure our other co-host, Tristan Riddell, can slide right in and provide continuity with delicious breakfast.
But why do I have to leave if we're recording on the computer? Why do I need to? Oh, okay.
You know what? Don't ask questions like this,
I'm getting in my
Darren,
code
okay?
right now.
And you're also a two-parent home. I mean, what? Why is this so complicated?
Look, it's complicated because they live in a big house, okay? And when you live in a big house, things don't function the way that those of us who don't live in big houses function. But what does function, no matter where we are, to your point, Darren, is the internet. Where can people find you out there on the wilds of the internet?
They can go to drscifi.com, DRSCIFI, where I have also my social links as well as my troop blogs of all the fun events I get to do dressed up as a stormtrooper.
There you go. And Tristan, where can people find you online?
You can find me at The Insane Robin on Twitter as well as Letterboxd. And you can find me all over this website at thenerdparty.com. Just go to the host page, click my name, and you can find all the shows that I've been involved in.
And as for me, just look for Kessel Junkie, not Uncle Kessel Junkie, just plain old Kessel Junkie out there. And the nerdparty.com/hosts. You can find me over there as well. So here we are with Uncle Buck, the film from 1989. That is the last one of the Hughes filmography that we are looking at, starring John Candy and presented as a good-hearted romp of John Candy antics and a movie that I remember very specifically members of my extended family finding great joy in, thinking that they really got a big laugh out of it. I did not see this movie until many, many years later. It was in the 2000s or maybe even the decade of the 2010s before I saw this film. It was just a big gap in my Hughesography. And I did not have the same level of positive reaction that I remembered them having. But I know, Tristan, you said this is your first time seeing Uncle Buck. So the question I have to ask is, first off, without giving away how you felt about it overall, do you feel that this is a movie that ages well into the 2020s? Or do you think that this is something rooted squarely back in its decade of origin?
Oh, I don't think there's anything particularly dated. Without giving anything away. I mean, there's no limits to technology in this. There's no limits to human interaction that are particularly dated. Like if you look at certain plots of certain movies where like a cell phone would solve the problem, this isn't one of those things where a cell phone would solve the problem, or any kind of problem presented. Really, it was just trying to find a babysitter, which is something that's universal. And I think Buck's mentalities aren't rooted in the 80s or like the late 80s, early 90s or anything like that. I think the only thing that really dates it is how the high schoolers look.
Very true.
How they dress and like everyone's wearing brown or black and hats and glasses. I don't remember that phase. Now, granted, I was like 5, but I don't remember that phase at all.
Well, I would have expected you to pay closer attention to high school styles back then. I mean, I remember bell bottoms, so there you go. But that's mainly because I inherited stuff from my older brother. But Darren, okay, you're revisiting Uncle Buck. What was your first viewing? When was the first time you encountered Uncle Buck?
Oh man, this probably also was like a blockbuster get. I've always been a John Candy fan. Although I think I was probably introduced to John Candy more through like Spaceballs, and then eventually Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I can definitely say that I think Neil Page was worried that this is the person he was going to end up with along his merry ride, and that would have been a very different trip. But yeah, so again, in late 90s, early aughts, probably watching from Blockbuster. And yeah, again, I was trying to look up like what gave Hughes the idea for this story. Like, was there, similar to Planes, Trains, where he had a terrible trip? I mean, because it's kind of trying to latch onto that universal, what if we had to ask, that black sheep of the family to come watch our kids, and that's pretty much that's the gag of the whole movie. And I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, it feels almost kind of very one note for Hughes. Because I mean, I was looking at the list, and man, he's like, we've come a long way, guys, since 84 with 16 Candles. Like, it's been like 5-6 years. It hasn't been that long. And he's been churning through movies.
Yes, very much. A thing I want to follow up on about the black sheep of the family. What I found really interesting about Buck, and on this rewatch as well, is there's this strange sort of disconnect where he can't hold a job or he can't make his way through life, but his lifestyle isn't really lacking, if that makes sense. Like, he still has means, but it's presented as he can't hold a job. And like the first thing that I go to, because they establish that he's 40 in the movie, is, well, you don't get like there. And I think this also gets to some of the structural problems, is there's not a whole lot of practical functionality to the character. And I don't know if that's just me wanting him to be rooted in reality, because I think it would make the comedy work better. Or
I don't. I'm going to chime in here real quick. I don't know if it was presented as he can't hold down a job. I think it's he just doesn't want to. I think he doesn't have to, because he's been such a successful gambler. And
that's a good point.
And better, because that's what he was talking about. Like, when he wanted to go to
that's how I make my living.
Yeah, to the racetrack.
Right.
You're right. Shanice was chiding him because he knew it was a fixed race, and so he's fine with betting on a fixed race, because if he bets enough and he knows it's fixed, then he gets something. He probably gets like $50,000, if not maybe
There's
less
a
than
year
that.
wage,
because it pays for his year, and so he can live in a crappy apartment in Chicago and live his life and go golfing and go bowling and everything like that, because he doesn't have anything to worry about. He doesn't have kids or a wife to worry about. And so he can live cheaply and live the way he wants, because he's a successful gambler. And Shanice is trying to make him a respectable person by giving him a job.
That's an excellent point. You're right.
Yeah. And he's like, well, we'll see, like, if you find somebody, give him part-time and it'll give me a week to think about it. He's kind of like a drifter, but except he stays in one place, and he just doesn't want to commit to anything.
That's an excellent point. You're right. It didn't really stick in my brain about that part of it actually paying for his lifestyle until you said it. And I was like, oh, right, there is a line. Because the way that line is delivered, I took it as it's more that he's a compulsive gambler. But you're right. It's actually presenting it as he's got a business model. Not business model, but he knows that the
how
money's
bread
going to
is
come
made.
in.
Yeah,
Right.
I actually have a family member who was a professional gambler. Like, he lived in Vegas, and that's how he made his income, was through gambling.
Wow.
He claimed it on his taxes, and that's how he lived his life.
That lifestyle is so fascinating to me, because it's so, to me, unpredictable. The closest I ever knew somebody like that there was a neighbor back when I lived in Virginia, and he would do like professional poker playing. And he had a job, but he would go once or twice a month and go up and supplement their income by gambling for the whole weekend at poker tournaments, and he made enough that it supplemented their income, sort of thing. So you're right.
Yeah. Well, just like they said in Rounders, there's a reason why the same 5 people make it to the World Series of Poker every single year.
Right. Yeah, they know what they're doing. Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. But I still say that there are practical problems with the movie, and we've alluded to it already. Darren, I'm dying to know, with the setup for why the parents can't watch their kids, and they have to call Buck. Does that work for you? Does it immediately throw a wrench in the movie? Or is this something where you feel like if Hughes had just, as we've said previously, like with She's Having a Baby, if he just slowed down for a minute and worked on the script and worked through things, it would go, he might come up with a better version of the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Tristan said, it doesn't make sense that both parents need to leave any situation, or at least one leaves and then maybe the other one leaves a couple days later when they find a respectable babysitter. Like, there's lots of options.
Right, yeah.
But I'm also not worried about the fact that they spend 2 minutes on this part of the plot, because it's not important. It's not super important why it's Uncle Buck. All we need to know is that he is not their first choice. And so it's more important in how he's being asked, and his brother and the wife's like kind of hearing half the conversation and he's trying to kind of cover it. Like, that is telling us who Buck is in the eyes of this family. And that's more important than why they picked him or had to pick him.
And I love that he's like, hey, I mean, I woke him up.
Yeah, he was in bed at 1 a.m. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a great
sign.
And I'm like, and the wife's like, you're really selling it, sweetie. Like, this is great. Yeah. So again, I didn't think too hard about it. I don't think you needed to think too hard about it. It was enough of a situation where, and because I feel like the reasoning why they had to leave was more on the mom and daughter dynamic, because that was part of that kind of story arc, and how, the daughter was really missing being away from other members of her family. And apparently they had like just moved or something like that.
Yeah. So, all right. I mean, I accept everything that you're saying. Tristan, why am I hung up on it? Why is it such a thing for me? Is this just, I got a burr in my saddle?
No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's one of those things where you like, they establish the premise and you have to buy into it, and either you buy into it or you don't, because like Darren was saying, is like, the point is Uncle Buck is coming. That's the entire point. What they really should have done is, like, the dad or the mom should have been on a plane. I guess the dad should have been on a plane. Like, the dad should have been on a plane going on a work trip or something like that, and the mom is like, I gotta go. I have to go. My father could be dying.
So
and
imagine the mom calling Uncle Buck and having to ask
the mom
him.
calling Uncle Buck,
right.
like
That's
that
even
kind of
better.
thing. That would have been amazing.
I think that's great. I might have even, I love that idea. And if we were sitting in the room hashing out the idea, I might have even said the brother should have like a heart attack from stress or something, so that he and Buck can have a touching reconciliation scene at the end where they meet in the middle ground. The wife is there with the husband in the hospital. Buck, you've got to come up and help us. And then at the end, after Buck is helped with the family, he says, you're right. I didn't understand the type of life you had. You didn't understand the type of life I had. Let's try to understand each other and share in each other's lives a little bit better.
It was definitely one of those things where, which relationship do you want to focus on? Like, what's the goal here in reconciliation? Like, is it Buck, like proving to Shanice that he can be responsible and respectable? Is it, is it Buck figuring out who Tia is and why she is the way that she is, and do they help each other out? Is it Buck finding some sort of reconciliation with the mom, because there's clearly something there? Like, I thought they were going to go somewhere when, like, he's looking at the photo album, the wedding photo album, and he's folded in. Yeah. And he and then they focus on the mom. And so there's clearly some sort of weird resentment from the mom, but is it also shared with Buck? And so does he see her as the wedge between him and his brother?
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. And then, but we don't see any kind of thing between the brother and Buck, even at the end. And you're just like, it's just like, there's so many different things going on relationship wise and they tease it. And then of course you have the mother and the daughter, and you're just like, okay, well, did we really need a reason for the daughter to be pissed off that much? Because she's just a teenage daughter. Like, she can just be an angry person.
Yes, that is true.
I want to talk to you about that, John.
No, you don't.
Because I want to talk to you about that because you have 2 teenagers in your house. Is that right?
Sure do. Yes, I do.
You have 2 teenage daughters.
Yep.
In your house.
Yes, I do.
And you are severely outnumbered. So
you play zone defense. You give up a lot of points, but so you can still win the game.
How was the representation of Tia? Was she too evil?
No.
Was she just evil enough? Tell me about your reaction to the character, basically.
Well, with Tia, it's movie evil, but in terms of her emotional state, I think anybody who is the parent of a teen girl, there's something familiar there. You can recognize what's going on, and honestly, layering on, here's where I become vulnerable with the audience. I'll become vulnerable with all of you. We moved. We didn't originally live in the state that we live in now, and I can tell you that that resentment about moving does exist as well. It happens. And it can take a long time and a lot of work to get past it. So that has its shades of, but the thing is, that's the thing about Hughes, is he hits these notes that are relatable and understandable. But to your point, Tristan, I think that it's like a rock skipping on water. It hits them, but it never goes in. And so it's sort of like everything's on fast forward and becomes a surface treatment of everything. And I think that becomes the problem. I think that the Tia stuff goes a little bit deeper, but the stuff with the mom, with the sister-in-law, is a puzzler, because especially on this one, I completely agree with you. It felt like there should have been more there. There should have been another 5 minutes to this movie where we explore precisely that. And Darren, I want to ask you, do you agree with that? Do you think that maybe some of the energy that got transferred to the great outdoors with the way that family dynamic happens, do you think that maybe Hughes was splitting his efforts and that's why we don't get enough depth here with it? Or do you think that there is enough depth with the
Well, you also have, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation coming right out of the heels of this. So he's a busy, busy guy. I totally agree. We needed another. Okay, so the ending, because why not? Let's talk about it. So we get the Hughes chord playing, and it's jarring. It's so like, oh, that's right, it's a Hughes movie, so we have to have the single locked off shot of the daughter play the Hughes chord, and then the locked off shot of the mother play. Exactly what I'm talking about. Like it's and I'm thinking, the mom is quickly kind of realizing what's going on. And I'm thinking, I thought the mom was in the "Are my kids still alive" mode, not the, oh, we're having a heart-to-heart talk. Okay, this is happening now. And I needed more. We needed more follow-up. I needed her thanking Buck and kind of, instead we got Shanice kind of thanking the kids for
why was Shanice there at the end? She shouldn't have been there at the end.
She didn't need to be there.
Buck and the family. And
like having a meal and Buck cooked and it's like crazy big and crazy and
awful,
but she realizes like, oh, he handled it. And then, maybe there's a stack of laundry that's like fizzled to dust in the background, right. Like, because he's microwaved it, because kids don't microwave it's not a good idea. Don't do that. But I would have rather seen an actual bit of closure with the sister-in-law than with Shanice, because Shanice, all it was, oh, just have the kid tell the truth, and then they realize what happened. Like, that was a very simple fix.
Yeah, I do know though that part of the I mean, obviously, audiences reacted to this movie positively. It opened at number 1, and it did pretty well. I think it made almost it made $79.2 million on a budget of 15.
Jeez, I mean
That's a
that's
good
the
return.
Hughes model right there.
You spend a little, you get back more, and it works. And I know, I make this sort of comment all the time. I know that in the era of less than $1 billion is regarded as a failure in the Marvel era. 79.2 is a respectable amount. This movie is well regarded enough that it got not 1 but 2 attempts at a TV series based on it, which is wild. But part of the reason I think that this wound up resonating with people is there are those isolated moments that work. And it helped propel the career of a young star named Macaulay Culkin.
That's right.
Who audiences would later see in Home Alone, and he would become a megastar kid actor. Tristan.
The next year. It was only 1 year later that he was released
you can
in
see,
Home Alone.
Basically, he's auditioning for that role here, is the way I see it.
I think
absolutely see it.
And he carried, I mean, for his age, because he's even younger than he was making Home Alone. He carries it. Honestly, the interview scene where he's asking questions to Uncle Buck, like that's when you can tell, like, this kid can deliver like lines, convincingly as a child.
Yeah, very much. But I mean, Tristan, this is your first time seeing it, and you get to see Macaulay Culkin burst onto the scene here and become this launches him on that trajectory.
Proto Kevin.
Do you see the magic in his performance? Do you look at this kid and say, wow, he needs to be in more stuff? This is a good kid. He's got great talent. Launch a career here.
I do. I don't know if I would say like, oh, this is totally the beginning of a great career, but I think the 2 younger kids really sold the scenes that they were in and really learned the script and knew the script and had fun with it. Like you could tell that they weren't struggling. Like they weren't, they weren't slaves and their name were Anakin, like it was, they could truly tell that they knew why they were there. They got the assignment. And it was, I laughed almost every single time the kids were on the screen. And that's saying something for me because I hate child actors and I don't like movies with children in them. But I really enjoyed this. And I honestly wanted more. I never thought I'd say this, but I wanted more with the 2 younger kids. And that scene between John Candy and Macaulay Culkin, where they were like doing interrogation back and forth real quick. I thought that was so funny and so great. And I looked it up, and apparently John Candy wrote that scene. And
wow.
He had the lines on his forehead for Macaulay Culkin's close-up so that he could read it super fast. So he didn't have to
remember.
So he wouldn't have to remember. And so he could just give the lines lightning fast and give that kind of delivery that he wanted. And it totally worked. And I loved Uncle Buck's interactions with the younger kids. I thought that was so funny. It was my favorite part of the movie was him being with the younger kids.
I agree with you, and I think that the real shame is that Macaulay Culkin wound up overshadowing Gabby Hoffman, who's the one who played Maisie. Because I agree with you. I think that she was terrific as a child actress,
great,
but he wound up
even the opening scene where they're talking about the swears.
Right?
She's like, "But you said this. Well, is that worth less than this or more than this?" And I'm like, "Dear Lord, child! Like, this is the kind of breakfast conversation you're having."
Now, speaking of the language, because we were talking about this in the lead up to pressing record here, Darren, with the language and with the somewhat mature party and sexual content at the end, the rating of this movie being a PG. Do you think that that's because the ratings board sat down and said, it's a Hughes movie, give it a PG? Or do you think that this movie deserved a PG-13? Or do you think they were being kind?
Gosh, that's a good question. I felt like I was prepared to answer until you said, did they deserve a PG-13? And I'm not sure, because obviously a portion of it, I think, is the Academy's way of treating I don't know, because that's true. Normally with the Academy, it's like violence is okay, but sexuality is not. And that's usually what they ramp up against, for American audiences. So this is kind of the reverse, where there's very little violence at all. But, in the end, maybe he got I think it was probably a pass of, it's a John Hughes and John Candy movie. Like, that was just enough to tip the needle so that they could give it their PG. Because would this have been his first PG-13? No, because that would have been
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is R.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And it's an R basically just because of that one scene.
Asking me to defend why the Academy makes a rating decision. We all know it's BS across the board. So
it's association.
Okay, you know what? I just want to I just want to say that I'm distancing myself from Darren's comments about the highly respected Motion Picture Academy.
Jeez.
I'm sorry, Motion Picture Association. Because I think that the decisions they make always make perfect sense. And in no way do I want to associate myself with those editorial comments. Frankly, I'm scandalized, honestly.
Oh, no, so that's the thing, though, is that the MPAA it's
just the MPA now.
Yeah, like they're so it's so murky, it's so shadowy.
It's not inconsistent. It's inconsistent across the board.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. There's certain rules that you can bank on, like when it comes to sexual nudity or when it comes to 2 F words. Like you can. There are certain things like that, but when you go to the 80s and early 90s, it was the Wild West, and it was just basically how they felt that day. And you could still say that today, but it was very much true in the 80s and early 90s.
I always try to root it in my brain as Jaws is PG, and Jaws is about a shark eating people, and it's like, it's in that weird territory, I think. And
honestly, I
Raiders
feel
of the Lost Ark and everything.
Just a single character classification like PG or G or whatever, like we really need to do a system that's like 4 different values, language, sexuality, violence, and something else. Like there needs to be more of a spectrum on rating, really. Like lumping it all into one, it doesn't work anymore. And they have gotten a little better, where often now when you look at the back of a DVD case or something like that, it'll say, rated PG-13 for violence and this content and that content. And that's helpful a little bit.
Look, I know we're in a rabbit hole, but that
we got Uncle Buck's drill and we're going down.
Yeah. When they initially did that, it wound up annoying me because I felt that telling me what it was rated that for was entering spoiler territory in some cases. No. I've gotten past it. I'm just saying when it first happened, I was like, they better not say that it's rated PG-13 because the Joker's in it, right? Like that sort of
that's true.
That sort of thing. Like, I prefer the generality.
Phantom Menace is rated PG for the death of. Oh wait, sorry. Wait. Oh no, curse you.
No, that one just had a little asterisk that said, "Read the soundtrack."
Yeah. Yeah. No, we all know.
Yeah, So, but Tristan, same question to you. Like Uncle Buck, did it deserve a PG-13 for its content, or is this you can understand a PG?
I mean, I don't care that much.
Well, it's not a question. Okay, all right, there you go.
I don't mean to sound dismissive, but
that's okay. It's just a question I asked that I was interested in. That's fine. I'm
if you told me this was PG, so if you told me this was PG today, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. But if you said like, oh, this was 1989, it was rated PG, I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
because it's the 80s.
I feel the same way. If you said it was PG, I would ask, my first question would be, when was it made? And then that would have given me the follow-up information of, 1989.
I see that's so interesting to me because the late 80s was really, having memory of it. There were a lot of instances where it was like they really overcompensated with the PG-13 a lot of times, where you would see something, you were like, really, guys, this is maybe a little much. Like, I think that it was hit on earlier, where it's like, it's just, there's an inconsistency to it. And I think that they were still, I would say that if there is an inconsistency with late 80s PG versus PG-13 type of stuff, it's because PG-13 was so new. They were still navigating that territory.
You're coming from a PG or R is a much easier distinction. It's like, oh, well, that's obviously like most movies are going to be like obviously R, obviously PG, but now you have two more designations. Is it obviously PG but not PG-13, or is it obviously PG-13 and not R?
Well, I mean, the thing is, just
why
to
these
wrap
people get paid the big bucks to make these decisions.
But just to wrap up this part of the conversation, I just want to say, is somebody who dislikes the half star, Darren, PG-13, why isn't there an R-17 and an R-18 and stuff like that?
Well, there is.
It's called
there
NC-17.
NC-17.
No. Oh, okay. Oh God, you guys are tired.
Are you a filmmaker,
Well,
John?
because we're tiring because we know what we're talking about.
Right.
No, I'm just trying to move on from this. And I was
all right,
making
let's
a
move
point,
on to
but that's
something
okay.
else. Okay, let's move on to something as just as innocuous. The poster. The only thing that I knew about this movie was the poster.
The door
That's
poster.
It. Never saw a trailer, never saw a scene, had no idea what the plot is. I just hit play.
So what did you think it was about, just seeing the poster?
Well, you've seen the poster, and I'm looking at it right now. It says like John Hughes film, John Candy on top, and underneath it, like it's split into two sections. So you're seeing it from the side. You're seeing the house from the side. So on the left, you have John Candy on the outside, and on the right, you have the family on the inside. John Candy is very pleased with himself. He looks very happy. He has his bag, his suitcase, and a paper and a cigar on his hat. And on the inside, you see all the family members, and they're literally barricading the door. They look shocked. They look horrified. And it says, oh no, it's Uncle Buck. He's crude. He's crass. He's family. And so this poster completely lies to you about the plot of the film, because
that's true.
It's
not the parents, like, erase the parents from the poster because they're not really there.
Well, on top of that, I think maybe to the point that you're getting to, Tristan, is like it makes it look like Buck is an invader.
He's an uninvited house guest, is what it looks like.
It's guest who's coming to dinner, and it's the crazy black sheep uncle, is what it feels like.
Exactly. And I think that what's
it's not
also
in their hour of need. Who could you turn to? Uncle Buck. It's like, no, that is not what the poster says.
What I think is also interesting, and I'm sure it's unintentional, is behind Buck is a blue sky, white fluffy clouds, a very positive background. He's good. And in the family, there's this drab single color background behind them. Like, I look at the John Candy side of it,
the only thing
like,
menacing about
happy.
Uncle Buck is like he's kind of got a look on his face with his eyebrows where it's kind of like, hey.
Yeah. Yes. So no, I agree with that, Tristan, and I think that maybe, just maybe, you've hit on another thing where if Hughes slowed down, he could say, well, why doesn't Buck just show up because he lost his job or something? And the family is like, oh no, Uncle Buck, the last time we saw him was Christmas, and
then they have to leave and he's already there, so it makes more sense.
Or you could even have a situation where the parents have to go to work every day, and every day that they're at work, Buck is causing mayhem. And you have just this repetitive sort of thing where Buck
he's got
has
that
to learn
suitcase,
as he
so it's
goes.
almost like guess who's
It's
moving
a very
in.
different movie.
It's like he's got to move in. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, so the poster lies. The movie catches you by surprise, Tristan, in terms of the setup and everything. But we've already talked about the sort of structural things. But the question becomes, there can be all sorts of structural problems. There can be all sorts of setup problems. Let's put it that way. Do you think that this movie coalesces enough by the end? Like, would this be something where you think it works in, do you think that enough parts are there to function that it explains why this received such a positive response when it was released and why it's remembered fondly?
I think it does until the ending. I mean, not like, I wouldn't say by the ending. I would say until the ending, because I think the ending is just massacred by poor writing and poor editing and poor direction. Honestly, I think it's we've talked about it a little bit, but once we get to the party scene, like actually once we get past the party scene and Bug is in the trunk, that's when you lost me as a viewer.
Really?
I was like, really? Yeah. That's I was on board through the entire film until that moment, because it was so over the top. It was beyond over the top and unrealistic, and it would have been so much nicer to just have him take Tia home. Just take Tia home. You know, she had a bad experience, and he's there to comfort her and take her home. And she walked away. She did the right thing. She walked away because Bug was being an ass and disgusting, and he was going to do worse with another girl. And Buck saved the day in that regard, and he took Tia home. We didn't need to see this over the top revenge fantasy of gagging and tying him up and throwing him into a trunk like that. That's a major crime. That is a major crime that Buck committed. And I know it's an 80s film, and it's an 80s comedy.
Hitting
but
a golf ball at his head, like, that's going to do some damage.
Like you could kill him doing that like easily. And it's just crap like that. And it's like, oh, I'm going to sue you. I was like, why don't you call the police? Like, sue him, get him arrested.
But let me throw this then, because Darren, as Tristan says that, what goes in my mind is this seems to be something we return to sometimes, a lot of times, I guess, with Hughes, where we suddenly go from a quasi-realistic scenario to a fantasy ending.
Kind of like, in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where, Neil Page sees him as the devil for 2 seconds, like literally, in that driving sequence.
I would go back to Breakfast Club. And the thing that we all hit on, where it's like all of a sudden it's this ending where it's almost like, forgive me, I'm sure that there are people who are going to get angry for this, but it's almost like Richard Donner syndrome, where you get up to the ending and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, okay, let's end it. It's like, whoa, hey, you had me up to a certain point, and now suddenly it's almost as if you took a vacation when the last two pages were written.
With the ending of Uncle Buck, the feeling I was getting from the trunk scene was that Tia was kind of showing a little bit of her Uncle Buck side, because she's like kind of laughing down at him, and she's got the drill, and it's kind of like, it was a weird bonding moment in a way. Like, yeah, totally a little over the top, but but they could have easily just had it been like, where's Bug? And he's like, oh, you'll they'll never find him. And he's like locked in the closet in the house or something like that.
Something like that. Or we don't even know. We don't even see it. He just says the line.
Stinger. Save it for a stinger at the end of the credits. You find out that Bug is...
Let me out of here.
He's like locked in the attic, and he's like, I'm sorry, let me out.
But to answer your question, John, about like, do I think there's enough there to make it memorable and to show why it was so successful? I think the answer is yes. I really enjoyed the character of Uncle Buck. I really liked that they didn't make him an idiot. He's just an oaf. There's a big difference. There's a big difference.
The black sheep oaf.
Yes, he's a black sheep oaf, but he's not. He may be selfish in certain areas, but he's very selfless in a lot of others, in the areas that count when it comes to these kids. Like he doesn't let Tia push him over. He doesn't ignore the kids. Like, he's not. It would have been so easy to write him as someone who's just like, oh, well, like, do I have to feed you? How many times do you eat a day? Like, oh, well, feed yourselves, or like, oh, I'm too hungover. I can't. Like, it. You can see that they've made that movie a million times. But with this one, no, he wants to take care of them because he's a good person. He's just,
he's Uncle Buck.
He's Uncle Buck. He just drifts through life and other things. He doesn't want the responsibility, but then he realizes that he's good at this. Like, he likes that responsibility. Like when he made the pancakes, Like, you know, that gigantic he didn't have to do that, but he did. I laughed hysterically when he said, he's like, you should have seen the toast. I couldn't even get it through the door. You know, that's hilarious. And he realizes that, you know, he's like, maybe like when he says to Shanice, he's like, we should have done this years ago.
Well, he's also ribbing her, and she's like, "What? I've been the one telling you we should for 2 years."
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's of course a joke, but at the same time, he's admitting it. He's admitting it to her that he had a good time, and I would like to think that, you know, Uncle Buck will come up like once a month to see them and hang out and be a part of their family. And I would have loved to have seen that as an ending, you know, as like a flash forward ending to like the next holiday or something like that.
And Shanice is like pregnant.
So, yeah, something like that, where we see the future where he's a little bit more stable. They have a good relationship. Tia and her mom have a good relationship. And it just would have been nice to see, because the ending felt rushed, but at the same time, too long. I don't know.
Use itself ideally. Like, it should have wrapped up other things better, and it spent too much time in other places.
That's exactly right. So, like, I really enjoyed the film until the revenge scene, and that's when it really started to go off the rails for me. Also, what the friggin' hell was the point of the clown? Why was that in the movie?
I think it's just showing Buck, like, that's like you were saying, he does care, and he very easily could have checked out and been like, whatever, you know, silly clown, we'll occupy the kids for a while so I can take a nap. But he's like, no, dude, I'm not letting you in. I've been where you are, and I'm not letting you near these kids because I love them. And it's just showing that more. That's what I took it from.
Yeah, like forward progress for Buck, where he recognizes somebody else who's
of the movie moment where we're seeing him evolve and mature.
But this is the funniest thing, is I think that Uncle Buck really is a movie that highlights the fact that while Hughes as a director, and I readily acknowledge that he has 2 films in the National Film Registry and one that I watch once a year because I adore it, and I think it's absolutely brilliant and perfect no matter how heartless Tristan is, that one of his things is his material sometimes is better handled by a different director who can refine it a little bit for him. Like, we talk about Macaulay Culkin going to Home Alone. I don't see Hughes delivering Home Alone the way Columbus does.
No, I don't either.
Hughes gives the raw materials to another guy who can put it together a little bit better, and it works.
It's kind of George Lucas like. I mean, a lot of Star Wars that was not by George Lucas, you know, because he can just be the creator and not the director.
Right. Somebody else can bring that. But I mean, I don't even know how involved Hughes was in terms of like being in the editing bay as producer and stuff like that.
For Home Alone, you mean?
Yeah. That really is a Chris Columbus movie.
Yeah, it really is.
And Hughes is saying, here's a script, make it work.
It's still really well written. I mean, Hughes did write an amazing story.
Let's just say that the conceit of how things go is better overall than, you know, like what's the setup here. It's almost like setup and ending are true. Hughes's things.
It's like, you know what? I better write a really good setup for Home Alone, because if it is not convincing on why these parents left their child alone, the movie doesn't work at all. If you don't buy into that premise. And you're right, like in Uncle Buck, it's kind of like the last pass he has, like where he can kind of skirt it a bit, and we kind of don't look at it too tight.
Well, I mean, honestly, you know, the premise of Home Alone, you're looking at something where it's going to be a lot. You got to really sell that one, you know, like with this one. Yeah. You know, I concede, like I get hung up on it.
Honestly, I didn't think about it until Tristan mentioned it, of like, why doesn't the dad just stay? I'm like, that's a good point. Why doesn't the dad just stay? Like, but I didn't even think of it, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's, and it's still better than Home Alone 2, which is just awful. But, you know, there's a part of me that wants to be extremely kind to Uncle Buck, because I recognize that a lot of people love it. I recognize that there are parts that work to it. So, Darren, I'll toss it to you. How would you sell this to somebody? Is this a movie where you're going to say to them, you should see it? This is a must-see Hughes movie? Or is this something where you would say, yeah, you could live without it?
Oh, that's a good question. Because even though I'd seen it before, I'm not like the biggest Uncle Buck fan. I'm not like, it doesn't have a place on my lineup where I'm watching it once a year. I don't return to this movie often and be like, oh, the memories, Uncle Buck. Yes. Amazing. But it's a decent film. I liked it more than She's Having a Baby or Weird Science, but not to foreshadow my rating at all. But I would put it this way. If I was making a 80s Hughes DVD pack, I would include it. I would include it in with some of the other top tier ones that are on the National Film Registry, that are good.
So your DVD pack for sale for $10 at Walmart has Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Uncle Buck.
It exactly does, with the 4 split on the cover, and there's, I'm going.
I feel like I've seen that before.
I mean, for $10, unfortunately, I have to cheap out and do the multi-stack spindle, which I know we all hate. But
yes. Well, I mean, for me, I look at that pack of the 4, and I say, one of these things they're bundling because I have a bundle that has European Vacation on it. And I'm like, I will watch everything except that movie because you're getting me on the cheap.
We got to sell our Uncle Buck, so we're going to bundle it with the 3 other amazing films that he made in the 80s. That's exactly what we're doing.
Exactly. But it makes the cut. You're not putting She's Having a Baby or Weird Science on there.
It makes the cut. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, that's a movie that you're trying to sneak in. What about you, Tristan? Does your bundle
got 2 John
include
Candy films and 2, high school films. There's balance.
What does your bundle include, Uncle Buck, Tristan?
Yeah, I think that's a good DVD bundle. Exactly what Darren said.
We probably have seen it. It feels like that is a real thing that has existed.
But mine probably wouldn't include Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Because you're heartless.
Yes, heartless to the core.
Since we know what everybody's bundles are going to be here, and the thing is, I actually agree. Uncle Buck is not my favorite Hughes thing. I don't think it's stellar. But I would probably sneak it onto that 4-pack because I like your thinking, Darren. 2 high schools, 2 candies. Okay. I could even give it a marketing spin and say high school and candy.
Yeah. Honestly, it makes more sense. Like, you wouldn't put Home Alone in that 4th slot because that would you can make more money selling Home Alone on its own.
Well, and he didn't direct it. So
and he didn't direct it. That's true.
Chris Columbus, you got
in this
Home
really
Alone
specific DVD pack that's only 80s, only directed by John Hughes.
Right.
Yes, it makes the cut.
Well, also released by the same studio.
That's
so
true.
I mean, Paramount loved them some Hughes films because he was making money for them. Quite frankly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the next logical question then, Darren, out of 5 stars, which is the absolute authoritative way that will never change in how we rate film, how many stars do you give Uncle Buck?
I'm going to give it a 3, a solid 3. Like I said, I don't return to it very often, but it's still a fun movie. I like Buck. I like how he always makes the right choice. I mean, yeah, he kind of muddles around things a little bit, but whenever it's a real critical, like, honestly, when I was rewatching this and trying to remember it, I was thinking he's going to go to the track and then feel bad and leave. But he doesn't even get that far because he realizes that is not what I need to do. Now, again, in the 80s, there's a part of me that's like, so then you leave the children to go look for Tia, and your friend Shanice isn't at the house yet. So there's a gap that I don't think would fly nowadays, of leaving the 2 children by themselves with the dog. But no, I'll give it a 3. It fits on my DVD pack.
Since you mentioned the dog, my wife used to travel a lot more. And when we only had 2 kids, I would have my cell phone with my Bluetooth because Bluetooth is the coolest. I would have my Bluetooth headset on, and I would have a connection with the phone at home, and when I had to walk the dog, it was you left the phone on the couch. They left the phone on the couch next to them while I walked the dog, and we would talk the whole time, so I'd know everything was okay. So
that's actually not a bad idea.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And frankly, I didn't want the dog pooping in the house, so it was very necessary. But Tristan, out of the perfect 5 stars, how many stars do you give Uncle Buck starring John Candy?
I thought that I would be rating it higher than Darren, but I'm giving it a straight 3 as well, because I liked this movie up until the ending. I thought this was good. I think there was a lot of structural problems like you talked about. There was a lot of threads that didn't really need to be there. There was a lot of confusion on what to focus on, but John Candy is such a delight. He just sells this movie. If it wasn't for John Candy, say it was any other actor and same exact lines and everything like that, it wouldn't be as good. Just because he's the only one that could have made this movie work the way that it does. And as I said before, I love the interaction with the younger kids. I think it's perfect the way that they did it. And I think 3 as in I liked it, but it has its issues, where 3.5 is a solid good for me and 4 is great. So I'd have to say 3, and it's the same that I rated Weird Science. And so that would be in my 4-pack.
Higher than Planes and Trains. So
and higher than Planes. I can't even remember what I did for Planes and Trains.
2.5.
2.5. Yeah, that feels right.
It doesn't.
It
doesn't feel right at all.
makes me wonder if, because obviously I wouldn't say Uncle Buck is his biggest role for John Candy, but why do I get the feeling that if somebody's walking down the street and in this era and they see John Candy, is he gonna, like those moments where actors say like, oh, I'm always getting diehard questions, or I'm always getting, like there's that one role that they're always kind of getting stopped for in the streets. Why do I feel like people walking down the street would be like Uncle Buck when they see John Candy? It feels like that. Maybe just me.
No,
just
about
me.
that one.
No.
I'd say like Cool Runnings or Spaceballs. Probably Spaceballs.
Oh,
Barf.
Barf.
Yeah,
I talk to him endlessly about being Del Griffith. I think that's his landmark role. But at the same time, before Uncle Buck, I would ask him about Summer Rental. I would ask him about his big break essentially with the original Vacation, because I think that's just that's the one where like you see Candy as the security guard at Wally World, and as you say John Candy, that still springs to mind.
That's true.
And it is hard to
I'd probably do the his bit in Home Alone is
oh my gosh, yeah, the polka king of the Midwest.
Yes. That's what I would say. You're right. Polka. No, Big and Sheboygan. Big and Sheboygan.
God, that's such a great role. That is such a great cameo. But yeah, this is a John Candy star vehicle. And so while I have problems with the movie, it's a 3 because Candy is charming. Macaulay Culkin is, I hate using phrases like this, but in a sense, he's a revelation because you see him and you're like, wow, this kid has talent. Like he knows what he's doing. And you see this and it makes sense why Macaulay Culkin became a star in the 1990s. You look at it and you're like, oh yeah, okay, this kid's got it. So that's a 3 from all 3 of us.
Across the board.
Wow. That, is very rare. As you like to point out, Darren, it's very rare for us to have the same ratings. But Darren, I will kick it to you because now that we are closing the door and locking the front door on House of Hughes,
barricading it with a chair, like the
we
poster.
Will never watch Curly Sue, because if any of us watch Curly Sue, if any of you in the audience watch Curly Sue, Tristan's head will in fact explode like that guy from Scanners. Darren, what are we doing next? Whose work are we reviewing next?
Well, we're going to stay in the 80s for just a little bit longer, and we are going to the directed works of Joe Dante, who has done such things as Gremlins, Explorers, Inner Space, and The Burbs. So yeah, the nostalgia is going to be very high. We're going to get shrunk. We're going to get blowed up. Don't feed us after midnight. Yeah, and we'll see how this progresses through Dante of the 80s here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.